Like
son-in-law.
your pressure's at like 25 right now on this, and that's kind of high. So you're gonna want to shut this off, which is the filter button. Turns this pump on and off. Now I have it in service is the reason I can do this. If this was an auto, which is this button right here, like right now it's an auto, you can't touch none of those buttons, it won't do you no good. So you gotta hit the mode button and put it into service. That'll kill everything, and if you want any individual thing on, you can just turn it on with this button. Like that'll turn on the filter pump, that'll turn on the waterfall, that turns on the pool lights and the waterfall light. Okay, the pressure is kind of high, so you want to backwash. You always want to turn this handle clockwise, all right? And it's on filter now, and I want to backwash because my pressure was high. I'm going to go to backwash. I'm going to turn this on. It's usually a good idea to have a water hose filling in the pool because we're going to lose some water. But it's got this little eyesight still on it right here. And it's clear right now. And it's going to start getting dirty. See how it's starting to not be clear anymore? It's getting kind of dirty and brown. You just let it run until it goes back until it gets close to being clear again. It's still kind of dirty.
Now this has an auto seal on it.
It does? Yeah. Oh, well then we don't need to. Really don't gotta worry too much about the hose. I usually put a hose in it if I'm gonna be like doing very much backwashing, you know, because it takes it down faster than that auto seal can fill it up. But, I mean,
and how do we know when to backwash it?
You watch your pressure right here, and I don't know where. After I backwash it, I'll know about where it normally runs. So that, I mean, I can tell you where to go by.
And it was on 25.
It was on 25, which to me I think is a little high. And this basket was plumb full of leaves, packed full of leaves. So this is a pump basket, and I'll explain all that next. Okay, see how I got clear again on the eyesight? You're gonna shut this off now. And basically, you want to rinse out all the dirt that's in the lines. Okay, so we're gonna go from backwash to rinse. You're gonna turn this back on. You're gonna watch this sight glass again. We're clear. Not gonna get dirty in there. Usually it gets dirty for a split second, it clears back up. And another good way to do it, which I always do, is I usually just, especially if you have to go very far to turn the pump on and off away from the equipment, I turn the pump on when I'm in rinse and count to 10, because that gives it time to flush the lines out. And just shut this back off. Go back to filter.
How do you turn the pump on at the same time?
And we're still at about 25, so it must run about like that.
How do you turn the pump on in the rinse mode?
Shut it off.
You shut it off.
Turn it to rinse. You turn it back on.
You go from
shut it off.
filter to backwash, and you backwash until the sight goes, you know, clear to dirt or dirty to clear, and then you shut it off and you go to rinse. And you turn it back on, you count to about 10, it gives you a chance to flush the lines out, shut it off, and back to filter.
Oh, okay.
This always goes clockwise.
Right.
There's a little gasket in here that's a real booger to change, and if you go counterclockwise, it'll roll it out of there.
Okay.
So it always has to go clockwise. When I got here, the basket was full of leaves, so what you want to do on that is, because this is below your pool, so this is like a flooded suction, so if you just took that lid off, you're going to have water just come running up out of this pump.
The pool's going to empty.
Well, I mean, you'll get it back on for it empties totally, but you want to close all these valves. You want to take this and put it on closed. Then you get pop this lid off, take the basket out, dump the leaves out of whatever, and put it back in.
Yeah, I saw. Oh, I saw it's living in it, doesn't it?
Going in there.
So they already cleaned it out.
Somebody's not been cleaning
before we
it.
got
Not
this.
very good at it.
That slides in here. See how it's got the hole?
Okay.
That goes in there in the front. Always got to watch to make sure this little gasket stays up here on this. Get it down the slot. Worst thing in the world you can do for that pump right there is forget to open those valves back up or forget to turn that handle back on. So you go from closed, clockwise, back to filter. You're going to open up all your valves. And then you turn your pump back on.
Is that the only time you ever mess with these valves? Is when you're
When
backwashing?
you don't even have to mess with them when you're backwashing or anything. Just whenever that basket needs to be cleaned out is when you need to shut those. And then when it's not, you just open them back up. Or if you used to ever want to drain your pool for some reason, you would take and close the skimmer and the skimmer, because they're the two high suction points. and you just have the main drain, and you would put this to waste, and it'll pump all the water out through this, all the way down to that main drain. It'll pump every bit of water. Well, I mean, other than just a little bit down there in the bottom. But that's how you would drain it if you ever wanted to drain it. Okay. This is part of your salt system, which we haven't added salt yet. You gotta wait like a month. But whenever we do add salt, we'll take and we'll set this little dude up with how much gallons of. We just barely went up anywhere at like what, 28 or so.
It's almost, yeah, it's almost to 30.
So we're gonna go ahead and close all these.
Closed.
Closed. We'll put this on closed.
Closed. See if you got anything out of the pool.
That's what we got out of the pool that's stuck in the basket, and the rest of it's in that filter.
And we haven't talked about the filter yet. When do you, is that when you backwash, that cleans the filter out? And how often do you need to do service work on a filter?
Hardly ever.
Good.
Hardly ever. In about 10 years, you'll be a bag or two low on sand, or the sand might be pretty much like packed hard to where it's not filtering through it good.
Did you get that, Allison, where you put the gap in that filter?
It goes in the front where it sucks from. Then you stick your lid back on. Make sure you open all these. Now we're going to backwash. We're going to kick this on. And we're going to watch that sight glass. And I guarantee it gets dirty now. Didn't get that dirty. I mean, when this thing's like really dirty, you'll know. I mean, when you turn it on, backwash this thing, it won't take very long. It'll turn yellow. It'll turn brown, you know. And then you just wait for it to start clearing up.
So it's clear now.
Yeah, it ain't that dirty.
You shut off. You go to
Clockwise to rinse.
rinse.
Then 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000.
When you're doing this stuff, it's always the filter pump, the F
Always
button.
the filter pump controls all that.
And these are all shut off.
No, those are all
They're
on.
open now.
That's open.
You scared me for a minute.
Yeah, as soon as you
Okay.
put the lid back on that,
That's
you
why
turn
the
those back
pressure is
on.
up. The reason the pressure's up is because we're going in between zones. When that thing changes zones in a minute, that pressure will drop way down. I say that.
And is that, what is that indicating? That's pressure?
That's pressure, yeah. It's kind of high. It should drop though. It does that though when it's going in between zones and stuff on that floor system. Your pressure will go up and down.
How did you turn that back on? Or
It should still be on. Oh, did you turn it off when I was cleaning? No. Yeah, it's on. See, it's going through a zone now. Your pressure's dropping back down. Now when it goes in between one zone to the next, when that pressure will go up. That's the reason you always
Because
want...
nothing's coming out.
Yeah, well, it is, but it's not like wide open when it's on a zone. That's the reason you always want to keep it tracked a little bit returning to the pool too, and not always just on that floor system. You always want just a little bit going to returns. That way when it goes to them zones, the pressure don't get up very high like that. See what, I mean, I'll show you what that.
yeah. It's about 25 now.
About 25 all the time. So I would watch my filter, and if I got to 35, I would back it.
At 35
At
back
35,
off.
yeah. And I can make this even easier. You started there. When it hits clean, you need to clean it. So that's that. I'm gonna put it back on auto. And that's
So you hit mode.
the
You
mode
just hit the
button
mode
switches you
button.
from auto to service the timeout. Now, what timeout does, if you put it on timeout, basically it turns everything off for I think it's 2 hours. You ain't got to do nothing. After 2 hours, it goes back to auto and comes back on. So,
And why would you do that?
just
Is it rough?
well, if you put, I really don't know. I've never used timeout. I mean, I guess if you were worried because you backwashed and your water was down below your skimmers or something, or down to where it's going to start sucking down through the skimmer, and you wanted to give it a chance to fill up with water before it starts back up, you could put it in timeout, walk away, and it'll fill for 2 hours, and then kick on.
So when all this is off, that autofill has nothing to do with that. It knows what to fill. And
It's a float system, right? Autofill?
I don't know. Now he tied it in off this back here.
Off the sprinkler, right? Yes, I don't level or nothing. They don't have nothing to do with this. It's got a float in it that goes up and down, and it totally goes by your pool level.
Like
So
an
if
automatic
So
water.
if this is shut
This
off.
shut off and it loses water, that autofill's going to kick on.
Okay, now you get a great big rain, and the water goes up above the top.
You have an overflow in that autofill where that float assembly's at. When the water gets so high, it flows out the overfill. So
Somewhere underground. Or,
Travis, I'm sure probably dug in some little hole and put gravel in it and ran a pipe to it somewhere out here. I'm 100% sure
like a
that's
septic.
kind of like
flow.
that's what he always does. I'm sure that's what he did. Filled it up with gravel. So whenever it rains or whatever, it'll go over that overflow and flow right out into that, and it'll filter through that gravel and into the ground. So, now
Now if you can drop down through the
I got a piece of paper you have to sign.